a lot of people, when they think or hear about thinking, they imagine, the famous Rodin's famous statue of the thinker, chin on his hand, and you can imagine the bearded philosophers, Aristotle and Socrates and others through the ages, sitting around sort of chatting and meditating and so on. And that is a lot of fun. I mean, but we didn't, that's not what we are interested in. We're interested in the kind of thinking that gets things done. The kind of thinking, I mean, one of the things I like about the theme you've chosen for your podcast is comeback. Now, what a terrific idea. We all have our ups and downs in life, just part of being alive. How do you come back? How do you recover? And we've got a big recovery project ahead of us on the planet now, not only with COVID, but how do you recover? And how do you come back? Or whether it's just on a personal, intimate scale, if you have a health challenge or a relationship, a breakup, whatever, the things that happen in life, how do you come back? And so I commend you for, really focusing in on that and offering some help there. But where is that done? Where is the comeback part of the body? And if you put your hand on your forehead there, just below your hand is what we call the prefrontal cortex. I've just recently written a small book about it called The Fourth Brain. And because I was attending a conference about, an online conference in my field, cognitive neuroscience, say 3, maybe 4 years ago. And there's one of the speakers I really wanted to listen to. So I stayed in there so I could hear him. He was a leading cognitive neuroscientist. And he said 90% of the papers on the human brain have been written in the last 10 years. There's been an enormous explosion in the interest in the brain, how it works, alongside, artificial intelligence and computers and programming, and all of this incredible growth of artificial thinking has kicked back a tremendous interest in what our brain does. And so I thought, gee, I did all my work in the 70s and 80s. Maybe I don't know anything anymore. So I spent 18 months making sure I really caught up with, all the stuff that was going on that I might have missed out of. And most of it's still quite valid. But the main leap forward is the work that's been done on the prefrontal cortex. This is the executive part of the brain. The other 3 parts of the brain come to us in a way genetically pre-wired. The reptile brain, from a million generations ago, regulates our heart and all of our housekeeping and keeps us alive. Then you've got the mammal brain, which is the emotional brain, the limbic system, our emotions, the big one, fear, and then the big human cortex. But they're all actually come as a result of our DNA. They're programmed, and as you grow, these things grow. But there's this front part of the brain, which doesn't come genetically. It has to be wired up from birth. It gets wired up and developed, not genetically, but through all the hundreds and probably thousands of daily, hits and misses, ups and downs, wins and losses, all the experiences we have. And this is how we can learn to live in the street where we live, in the family we live, in the culture we live in, the environment, the climate, and so on. Otherwise, we wouldn't necessarily be able to adapt. And so it doesn't really come online fully until we're about 25. So this accounts for a lot of the problems that adolescents have in peer group pressure and in gambling and all sorts of other things, because they don't really have the ability to assess risk and to do this sort of.
I can relate, Michael, in a big way.
Well, I think we all can. We're being teenagers, and some of us have even have teenagers as kids, and so that's a big issue. But all of this is quite recent, and so. I wrote about that recently. I'll send you a copy of this. But the point is, what I was interested in then before, and even more so now, is developing software for the prefrontal cortex. Software specifically so that you can come back, or you can recover, or you can look at things differently, or you can escape from your box, whatever your box might be. And that is, in a sense, the most difficult feat of human thinking, is to escape from our point of view, because after all, that is our point of view. If you add culturally in the Western world, if you were educated in America or Europe or Australia, you learned at school. The church in the Middle Ages invented the idea of universal education, which was a terrific concept, and to the world, it spread it around through the world by influencers, we would call today, but they were missionaries then. And they went around the world and they established schools and libraries and hospitals and so on. And we have this vast educational project, which we've seen over the last 500 years. But the software for the brain that was embedded in that was Greco-Roman software, Aristotle software, the idea of right and wrong. So in the thinking hats, it's the black hat, the judgment hat. I'm right, and if there's such a thing as right and wrong, well, I'm right, so therefore you're wrong. Conflict and argument, and we see in our parliament in Australia, all the people on this side saying we're right, and nothing you say makes any sense. And these are adults. And on the other side of the parliament, they're saying, no, we're right. And so you get this constant clash of right, wrong, trying to cancel each other out and one-upmanship. And out of that is supposed to emerge a positive and a safe and a productive future. So it's not a bad software for mail sorting and label slapping, but for designing a better future, it just can't get the job done. So we need more software for our brain, particularly software for our PFC, our prefrontal cortex, to enable us to escape from our point of view so we can find a much better one. And in our algorithm, we use 10 times better as the provocation. So that's where the x10 or the times 10 comes into it. So we end up with a little formula, the brain secreting at any moment a current view of the situation. So right now, you and me and anyone watching, their brain is giving them a CVS, a current view of the situation based on their mood and their background and their wiring and the stimulus they're getting from this podcast. So you have a CVS. Now that's fine, that's great. We need a current view in order to know, just to be able to live. But then you have two strategies available to you. You can either keep your CVS, your current view of the situation, maintain it, defend it, because after all, it's right, or you can escape from it and find a better view a 10 times better view of the situation, which is rather more difficult because it's easier to defend what you've got than to escape from it, leave it behind with all the risk and uncertainty that involves in order to find a better one. But when we're trying to come back from a very bad CVS that we have, depending on just what happened to us in life, then escaping from our CVS to find a BVS is a very important thing. And that's why, I think what you're doing is great.